Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. So let's start by reciting Namo Tassa together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Homage to the sublime, the victorious, the totally self-enlightened one. Okay, so last week we started with the chapter 2 about cetasikas, mental factors, and we have finished the universal cetasikas, the ethically variable group, the universal cetasikas of the ethically variable group. So today we are going to go to the occasionals. And before we do that, let's make a little revision. So we have been talking about the Anya Samana cetasikas, meaning that they are ethically variable mental factors. That means they are, in terms of cooking, they are like water or flour. Depending on other flavors, depending on other types of cetasikas, they can be associating with Kusala chitta, with Akusala chitta, even with Kriya chittas, and also with Vipaka chittas as well. So the universals that we have looked at last week are those that associate with all kinds of chittas. So that means that whatever chittas arise, they always arise together with this universal, ethically variable universal cetasikas. So what are they? Let's do a quick revision. The first one is contact, phassa, right? So contact, for example, for eye consciousness, contact with visible object, ear consciousness, contact with sound, nose with smell, and tongue consciousness with taste, and touch, body consciousness with tangible object, and of course the mind with all other different kinds of mental objects as well. So phassa is the first cetasika that is universal and associated with all kinds of chittas. Then we have vedana. So vedana also accompanies all kinds of chittas. Whenever there is a chitta, there is always vedana. Then we have sanya, perception. And then we have cetana, the motivation. And then we have ekaggata, one-pointedness. And the last one, jivitindriya. Oh, actually not the last one, sorry. Second last one, jivitindriya, the vitality. And then we have the last one, manasikara, which is the attention. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are the universal cetasikas that accompanies all kinds of chittas. They are always there with any kind of chittas. Now remember, they are ethically variable, so they can associate with kusala and akusala. So depending on the other cetasikas, they can direct the mind to unwholesome thing, or they can have one-pointedness towards unwholesome thing, or to wholesome things, or also neutral as well. Yeah. Okay. So this is the universal group. Next, let's go to the occasionals. Okay. So now we are going to look at those occasional ones. In Pali, it is called a pakinaka. So what does this occasional means? Occasional means those are cetasikas which are common to all the chittas. However, they don't accompany all chittas in general. That means they will arise with some chittas, but they will not arise with all chittas. So depending on the occasion and the type of chittas, sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not there. So since they are also ethically variable, and Anya Samana also, so they can also be with Kamavachara, Rupavachara, Arupavachara, and even Lokuttara chittas. Okay, so let's see what are they. Now, imagine this is a chitta. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 universals, the yellow part is always there. It arises with all kinds of chitta. Now we are going to look at the occasional ones. The first one is Vitakka, initial application. Then we have Vicāra, sustained application. Adhimokkha, determination. Then we have Vīriya, effort. And Pīti, joy or pleasurable interest. Then we have the last one, Chanda, wish to do. So all these ones are also, again, they are still ethically variable, just like flower or water, depending on what kind of other cetasikas that they associate with, then they become the type of cittas, kusala or akusala. Okay, so now Vitakka, Vicāra, and Pīti, these ones, actually, we have already seen them previously. Do you remember where? In the jhanas, right? So actually, Vitakka, Vicāra, and Pīti, they are some of the jhana factors. So all these three, we have already seen them. And the other two jhana factors, sukha or ekagata, sukha or upekkha and ekagata. And actually, all these five, we have already seen them. So these two, sukha is actually Vedana, right? So sukha and ekagata, they actually belong to the universal group, the universal of the ethically variable ones. We saw them last week, right? Vedana and one-pointedness, ekagata. And then this Vitakka, Vicāra, and Pīti, we're going to look at them today, and they are the occasional ones. So it's very interesting, you see here, that Vitakka, Vicāra, Pīti, sukha, or Vedana itself, and ekagata, all of them can associate with, actually, with any kinds of cittas they can associate with. They can associate with kusala, with akusala, they can associate with vipakka, and also kriya cittas as well. So they are all ethically variable mental factors. But of course, when they are very well developed, when they are in jhana, they always associate with kusala, right? Or kriya, if it is an arahant meditating. So this case is understanding that the cetasikas, each of them, they can be associated with kusala or akusala when they are not in jhana, right? Anyway, okay, so let's go to the Vitakka, the occasional ones today. Vitakka, initial application. Okay, so what is the characteristic of Vitakka? Characteristic is of Vitakka, initial application, is it applies the mind onto the object. So this is the cetasika which puts the mind onto the object. Now, Vitakka can arise with only 55 types of consciousness of citta. So not all of them have accompanied with Vitakka. So it's only some of them. And when this Vitakka is very well developed until jhana, then it is a very, very strong factor that associates with the jhana cittas. Okay, so let's see its function. Now, its function is to strike and hit against the object. So meaning it puts the mind to the object and then it touches and then it hits again with the object. It's taking the object. And then its manifestation is the leading of the mind onto an object. Sometimes they are very similar, the characteristics or function on manifestation. So, and its proximate cause is the object itself. Now, sometimes you may have heard that Vitakka is also called thoughts, right? It's also called like, or even sankappa, no, like intention. So, such as in which place? Let's say in the even in the Abhidhamma Sangaha itself, in the guide itself, it is mentioned there. It says Vitakka is also called sankappa or intention, and as such is distinguished as miccha sankappa or wrong intention or wrong thought, and samma sankappa, right intention or right thought. So sometimes when you see sankappa, this word, it is not as when you see sankappa, meaning like thoughts or intentions, it in ultimate reality, it wants to say the Vitakka cetasika in this case. So it depends, like sometimes depends on the context. It may mean thought, it may mean intention. And then if we're talking about the cetasika that accompanies most of the cittas, and in this case is initial application, which is only applying the mind onto the object. So when we see this word, sometimes it has different meaning in different places. So for example, samma sankappa, in that cases, that is one of the factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. No? So in ultimate reality, it is also this Vitakka cetasika. Okay, so Vitakka is like the application. Initial application is like putting the mind onto the object. No, so I imagined like a sticker. So you really stick the mind to the object itself, to the object. Okay, so last week, Edith also said that it is a little bit confusing with Manasikara, right? So Manasikara is a little bit different from Vitakka because Manasikara, it is like the turning, like it tells everyone we're going there. It's like the rudder of the ship. We're saying that we're going towards there. So it's pointing the direction. It's showing everyone attention to the object. And Vitakka applies all the mental factors onto the object. And Manasikara is actually an indispensable cognitive factor that is present in all kinds of cittas, while Vitakka is only occasional. So sometimes it is there, sometimes it is not there. So it is not absolutely necessary for basic citta to function. So Vitakka is a little bit different from Manasikara in this sense. Later on, we will have another example which will make it a little bit more clear. Okay, so let's go to Vicāra, sustained application. Now, its characteristic is the continued pressure on the object in the sense of examining it. So it's like the holding onto the object with a little bit more details. No, it's like examining it or looking at it. So Vitakka puts the mind on the object. Vicāra keeps the mind on the object and engaged to the object in the sense of like examining it. Okay, now the function. The function is of sustained application or is the sustained application of the associated mental factors to the object. So it holds and then it also encourages all the other mental factors to do the same, to stay with the mental object. And its manifestation is like anchoring of the other mental factors, of all the mental factors in the object. And its proximate cause is the object itself. Okay, now remember that Vitakka and Vicāra, although they are different mental factors, they arise together at the same time. No, when it is in the jhana factors, we have seen it is like this hand of the potter is holding, which is like Vitakka, and this hand, and then the Vicāra is like the molding of the pot, right? So they do a different job, but they do it together. So it's not Vitakka first and Vicāra after, but they arise together. Okay, now another example of Vitakka, Vicāra being given in the commentaries is like a bee. When a bee dives towards the flower is like Vitakka, and the bee hovering over the flower is like Vicāra. And another example is like an airplane. When it reaches, when the plane is taking off, it's like Vitakka, and when it is reaching the cruising speed, is like Vicāra. So these are different examples being given by teachers to let us understand a little bit better. Okay, so imagine Manasikara is like the direction. So it knows that, oh, okay, the object is there. Everybody pays attention to this object. Then Vitakka is the putting the mind onto the object, and Vicāra is the holding of the object and keeping the object there. So that's Manasikara, Vitakka, and Vicāra. So they are different mental factors. Okay. So we have seen Vitakka and Vicāra. Now let's go to Adhimokkha. And with Adhimokkha, translated as determination, what does this cetasika do? It dwells on the object and makes the decision that this is the object that I'm going to. So it is like very determined. Yes, this is the object. It's like a stone pillar, which is steady and is strong and it does not move and it cannot be shaken. So Adhimokkha is like that, is dwelling on the object very firmly. Now let's see its characteristic. Its conviction. So it is very convinced about the object. And then its function is to not hesitate. It has no hesitation about the object. It just goes there. And then its manifestation is decisiveness. Sorry. So it is very decided about its object. And its proximate cause is something to be convinced about. So that's for Adhimokkha. Okay. Now let's go to the next one, which is Vīriya, effort. Now, Vīriya is very important, especially when practicing meditation. We always hear about Vīriya effort, right? Now, if you remember the dragon boat, now Vīriya here is not the person who is playing the drum, encouraging everyone, but instead are those who are making effort on doing the work, no? So this is Vīriya. Okay, now let's see the characteristic. The characteristic of effort is supporting or exertion, and its function is to support its associated states. So with the help of Vīriya, the associated states can be on the object to stay with the object. They are reinforced by Vīriya, by mental energy, you know. And its manifestation is non-collapsed, meaning like what? It's like when something is being supported, then it does not collapse. Like an old house, when the house becomes old and shaky, then we put some timber and to support it and to reinforce it. And also Vīriya is something like that. It supports. Okay. And then its proximate cause is a sense of urgency or a ground for arousing energy. Okay, so the example given by Sayadaw Silananda in his book, he says, like sometimes we have what we call grounds for arousing energy, meaning to understand what does this proximate cause mean. So he said, for example, we can think that tomorrow I have something to do, so today I will practice meditation because when I'm doing that something tomorrow, then I won't be able to practice. So today I will practice. So it's something like that. Or we think like after doing that job, when I'm doing that job, then I cannot practice meditation. So when it is finished, and then now it is time for me to practice meditation. So there is something, some encouragement or some situation that one feels the sense of urgency or ground for arousing energy. I must do it now because later I can't do it or something like that. So those are the proximate cause for arising of energy or Vīriya. Now, remember that we are still looking at the ethically variable cetasikas, right? So we can have energy to help someone, but there are also energy that is possible to harm someone, right? Because it is ethically variable. So depending on what it is associated with. Now, energy for meditation is very, very important. You remember we have 5 hindrances, remember? But then besides we have 5 hindrances, actually, we have also 5 friends. So those are called the 5 faculties, right? So we have sada, confidence or faith. Then we have panya, wisdom, which makes a pair. And then we also have samadhi, concentration, and Vīriya, which is effort. And then we have sati. So these are the 5 friends or the 5 faculties for meditation, right? So it is said that sada and panya, so confidence or faith, and wisdom must be balanced, and one cannot exceed the other. No, it's like the wing of 2 birds, so it must be balanced. Otherwise, it cannot fly properly. No, then samadhi and Vīriya, it's a set. There is a pair. They also must be balanced. The concentration and effort. Right. If one is too concentrated, then we may get like very, very concentrated, and we get sleepy. And then that time we need some effort. We need some Vīriya. And if someone is putting too much effort, too much Vīriya, then he may get agitated and restless. So in this case, then the mind needs to calm down and needs to get some concentration. So Vīriya and samadhi has to be balanced. And now what is said to be always important and never too much is sati, is the awareness, because sati is the one that knows whether these other 4 are in balance or not. So Vīriya is one of the 5 faculties for, it is very helpful for meditation and very necessary. So this cetasika is called Vīriya. Now energy, this Vīriya, it is said that when during meditation practice, when there is enough Vīriya, then it can even temporarily burn the mental defilements. So that's why it is sometimes also called Attappa. In the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha always used this word again and again and again. No, it says Attapi Sampajano, Satima, and so on. No, so that means like having effort or making effort. This Attappa or Attappi means heats up. It heats up or burns the mental defilement temporarily. So when there is Vīriya, there is temporarily no mental defilements, and then the mind is not giving up and is not dropping out. So that's why it is important for meditation. Okay, now not only for meditation, but for doing any kind of kusala, Vīriya is also important. But of course, it is ethically variable. So as we have said, then when we do something unwholesome, also there are a lot of effort in doing something bad also. No? So it depends on what other cetasikas it is associated with. Okay, so let's go to the next one, Pīti. Now, Pīti is translated as usually as joy or sometimes as a pleasurable interest. So it is also, sometimes you may find translation as like happiness or zest, rapture, or these different kinds of translations as well. But it is important to know that Pīti itself is one cetasika on its own. It is not Vedana. It is not a mental feeling, although it is kind of like related, right? So whenever there is Pīti, most of the time there is always sukha, because it is pleasurable and it feels good to be joyful and to have this interest, right? So they associate with each other, but they are different. So Pīti is not Vedana. Okay, so let's see its characteristic. Endearing the associated mental states. So it's characteristic of Pīti. So when there is Pīti, the mind is happy and it is kind of like elated. And its function is very nice to refresh the mind and the body. When there is joy, one feels refreshed. And its manifestation is elation. And its proximate cause is nama and rupa, because if there is no mind and matter, then Pīti cannot arise. So here it is said that it is its proximate cause. So just to have some joy, and let's see some joyful faces. Okay, so now remember Pīti, although it's like joy and rapture and like that, but it can also be ethically variable, no? Okay, let's see. Do you think this lady is joyful? What do you think? Yeah, she looks joyful, right? So it can be ethically variable. So it depends on the situation. So that means that it can, in this case, obviously associated with Akusala, right? So she may be feeling mentally happy, saying something bad about others or whatever. But so remember, joy also is ethically variable. Now, the difference between joy and happiness, we mentioned already when we were studying the jhana factors, but just to remind everyone, joy is like travelers on the desert, and when they are very tired after the long journey and they are all thirsty and and when they met another traveler on the desert, and then they say, oh, the oasis is just over there, it's very close. So when they hear that news, then they become joyful. Then they are not there yet, but they are happy and they are joyful. They know that soon we are going to arrive there. So on the way, walking towards the oasis, all the way they are feeling joy. Now, when they really arrive there and they take some water and clean themselves, then that happiness, that feeling is happiness, that's sukha. It is compared in this way. So the anticipating of something nice is the joy, and while you're actually enjoying that something nice is sukha. So that's the difference between the two. Okay. So let's go to the last one of the Pakinaka, occasionals, Chanda, wish to do. Now, Chanda is the mere will to do. It's just wanting to do something. It is different from Lobha, from desire and attachment. No? Chanda here, it just wants to perform an action. So let's see its characteristic. The characteristic of Chanda is the wish to act. Its function is searching for an object, like something to do, right? And then its manifestation is the need for an object. It needs something that is doing something. And then the proximate cause is the object itself. Now, the example given by the teachers are really nice. I really like this example. The Chanda, this wish to do, is compared to an archer stretching out her hand to pick up an arrow. So the archer, what she wants to do is she wants to shoot. She picks an arrow because she wants to shoot. Then she is not attached to the arrow. She doesn't want to keep the arrow for herself. So Chanda is like that. It's only wishing to do, is not wanting. So it is different from attachment and from Lobha in this sense. So it's only wanting to do the thing. It's not the Lobha or the attachment that it wants to keep the thing. But of course, Chanda can also associate with Lobha, right? So when Chanda is associated with Lobha, then the wish to do is what? Wishing to want that thing, no? So then there is attachment. And it's wishing to do that. But then if it is not associated with Lobha, then it's just merely wishing to do something. Okay, so for example, when we wish to help someone, we wish to improve, we wish to meditate, and all this is Chanda. Because there are many times I have heard in the meditation center that the yogis asked our teacher, said like, if I want to meditate, is this Lobha? So sometimes it really depends, because it's really depends on why the person wants to meditate. No, like if he's just purely wanting to meditate, want to improve, then that is not Lobha. That's Chanda. That's the will to do, and it is necessary. If we want to do anything, we need to want to. No, so that is Chanda. But then if the person, he wants to meditate because he wants to show his neighbor that he is very nice, that he is a meditator, then that might be Lobha, no? So it's different, depends on what other ingredients are associated together. Now, sometimes this word Chanda can also be used for desire. When we say sense desire, sometimes we use the word Kama Chanda, no? But then in this case, it's specified. So with Kama, with the sense also. So if you see Kama Chanda, in this case, this Chanda means sense desire. And in ultimate reality, it's actually Lobha. So it's included in the 5 hindrances, this Kama Chanda. So in ultimate reality, it is not the cetasika Chanda itself, although the name has Chanda, but actually it is Lobha. So it's a different cetasika in ultimate reality. Okay, so remember, Chanda, it's only the wish to do, doing any kind of thing, any kind of action. Okay. All right, so very quickly, we have finished with the Paginakas, Vitakka, Vicāra, Adhimokkha, Vīriya, Pīti, and Chanda. Okay, so these are the occasionals, and then these are the universals. So now we have already so quickly finished all the group of the ethically variable ones. So that means that these ones, again, they are like water or flower, so they can associate with either wholesome ones or beautiful cetasikas, depending on what they associate with. The chitta will become different, but then they themselves are ethically variable. And the universals associate with all kinds of chittas, and occasionals, most of them, but not all. Okay? So let's go to the unwholesome cetasikas. So it's the next family, the Akusala cetasikas. So actually, these are the factors that make a type of consciousness unwholesome. Chitta itself, it's like it can be compared like clear water. So these akusala are like these dyes, like red or green or blue. So when it is associated, when it is mixed into this clear water, then it becomes an akusala chitta. No, in the same way, let's say chitta itself has no color; it's just a bare awareness of the object. But then, if it arises together with this any kind of these akusala mental factors, then it becomes an akusala chitta. And actually, there are 14 of them, and they are responsible for all the dramas in samsara, actually. So they are the main characters of what we live day to day. Okay, so let's see. For the Akusala cetasikas, they are also divided into 2 groups, universals and the occasionals. Okay, now occasionals are further divided into different groups. We have the Lobha group, the Dosa group, and the others. So some other ones that are in another group. But now, universal of Akusala cetasikas, what does that mean? That means any kind of Akusala citas that arise will always associated with this Akusala universal cetasikas. Okay, so that means that a citta that arise always associate with the ethically variable universals and some of the ethically variable occasionals. And if it also is an Akusala citta, then it must also associate with all the universals of the Akusala. And depending on the group, sometimes with Lobha, or sometimes with dosa, or sometimes with the others. Now we will go to see what the others mean. Okay, so let's take a look at the universal ones first. Now, the universal ones, we must always have moha, no delusion or ignorance. So any kind of akusala always associate with moha. And the other is ahirika, moral shamelessness. And then we have Anottappa, moral fearlessness. Ahirika and Anottappa, they always come in a group. And Uddhacca, restlessness. Remember when we studied the Akusala cittas, we already mentioned that all kinds of Akusala cittas always associate with restlessness, yes? So moha with ignorance and restlessness, we have already come across them previously. So we also have Ahirika and Anottappa. So any kinds of Akusala cittas always associate with these four universal cetasikas plus some other kind of occasionals, right? Okay, so let's see about the occasionals, which are they? Okay, so Lobha group, we have Lobha, attachment, and then we have Diṭṭhi, wrong view, and we have also Māna, pride and arrogance. So when we studied the Lobha Mula Citta, we have already seen that Diṭṭhi, this wrong view, belong to the Lobha group, right? So here we have Lobha, Diṭṭhi, and Māna. So these are the three in the Lobha group. And then let's go to the dosa group. Now in the dosa group, we have aversion, dosa itself. Then we have isa, envy and jealousy. And we have maccariya, stinginess, and kukucca, meaning remorse or worried. So these four are included in the dosa group. They are separated cetasikas, but they are included in the dosa group. And now we have the last group, which is the others. So what are they? They are tina, laziness. We have mida, torpor. And we have vicikicca, doubt. So altogether, we have 14 akusala cetasikas. So we have the universal, moha, ahirika, anottappa, and uddhacca, restlessness, Lobha group, Lobha itself, Diṭṭhi, wrong view, Māna, arrogance. And then we have the dosa group, which is aversion, dosa, isa, maccariya, jealousy or envy, and stinginess, and also doubt. Not doubt, worried or remorse. And then we have the last group, the other, tina, mida, and doubt. So all these 14 are all the akusala cetasikas. Okay, so now we are going to go into each one of them and see more details. Okay, moha. With all the actually 14 cetasikas, moha is the king. No? So we already have seen them previously when we studied moha mula cetasikas. Cittas, moha mula cittas, the consciousness rooted in delusion. So what does it do? It's like this ninja or something. It makes a smoke screen. It deludes the mind and makes the mind fussy. And then we cannot, because of this veil or this screen, then we cannot see reality as it is. Or sometimes it is described like it's covering or hiding up the real nature of things. So we do not see things as impermanence, as unsatisfactory, and as non-self, etc. No? Or sometimes it is also described like a blindfold. When one is being blindfolded, then we don't see the true nature. And then we think what is good is bad and what is bad is good. So this is what moha does. So let's see its characteristic. The characteristic of moha is mental blindness or unknowing. So that means not knowing or not understand the true nature of things. So sometimes it may understand something, but it understands it in a wrong way. Okay, so its function is to conceal the real nature. So it does not let one see what is really, what the real nature is. And its manifestation is the absence of right understanding or mental darkness. Very dangerous, right? So there's the darkness. So it's like there is no light in the room, we cannot see anything. And sometimes it's opposite. Moha, which is panya, wisdom, is compared to light. So when we turn on the light, then we can see. So when moha, we cannot see anything. Okay, then its proximate cause is unwise attention, yoniso manasikara. Okay, so this is the 4 devices of the moha. So the first universal unwholesome cetasika. Okay, now let's go to Ahirika and Anottappa. Ahirika and Anottappa, moral shamelessness and moral fearlessness, they are always a pair, or they always come together. Now, Ahirika is compared to a village pig in the scriptures. It is said like that: a village pig which is not disgusted with eating excrements. So when there is shamelessness or ahirika in our mind, we are not shameful to do bodily or verbally unwholesome actions. So when you're not ashamed to break the precepts or to harm others or do whatever is unwholesome, no. So that's moral shamelessness. Let's see the 4 devices of ahirika. Now, the characteristic of ahirika is the absence of disgust at bodily and verbal misconduct. So one is not disgusted about doing wrong thing, and its function is to do evil things, to do unwholesome things. And its manifestation is not shrinking away from evil or from bad. So it's just going directly into the unwholesome thing without any second thought. And its proximate cause is the lack of respect for self. So the person, I don't care. I can do whatever. And so any unwholesome thing, you can just do it. That's what Ahirika, this cetasika, does. Then let's see. Anottappa is translated as moral fearlessness, meaning that one is not afraid of the consequences, that it doesn't care. It can do anything unwholesome, just like a moth that is not afraid of fire. So if it's not afraid, it will just go right into it and get burned, right? Okay, so this is the example given for Anottappa. So there are situations and in life that we have seen that there are people who are not shameful or not fearful of doing any wrong thing, but instead they may be very proud of doing some unwholesome things sometimes, right? So these are the job of Ahirika and Anottappa. So don't care about consequences, don't care about the others, don't care about oneself. Now, if we see the 4 devices of Anottappa, the characteristic of it is the absence of disgust at bodily and verbal misconduct. And its function is doing evil things. And manifestation, us not shrinking away from evil. Until here is the same as Ahirika actually, but its proximate cause is different. Now it's the lack of respect for others. So if we compare Ahirika and Anottappa, these 3 characteristic function and manifestation is the same, but the cause is different. So one of them is the lack of respect for oneself, and the other is lack of respect for others. So actually, if we have self-respect, we will hesitate from doing unwholesome things, no? Or if we are afraid of being criticized by others, or we have respect for the others, we will hesitate in doing unwholesome things, right? So actually, Ahirika and Anottappa, it always arises together, right? They're a pair. It's in the universal unwholesome cetasikas, right? So that means when someone or when we do unwholesome actions, we actually both don't have respect for oneself nor respect for others. Okay, yes, Claudia, question?
Yes, I just want to ask, what does it mean, respect for oneself? there is no self. So
in
which way?
Yes. So sometimes when we study, we have to understand that we must use some concept, some words, so that we can understand. Otherwise, we will be talking like this bunch of bubbles is talking to that bunch of bubbles about these other bubbles, right? So sometimes even in the suttas, the Buddha used a person or an individual. So we have to understand in this way, because especially when we are talking about akusala actions like this, like killing or stealing, or if we say that there is no one anyway, what do I kill? I cannot kill anything. I'm just killing a bunch of rupa, then that is not killing, that I may say so, then I can kill. So it's not like that, right? So without respect for others, in this case, obviously it's about the concept of how we live in our daily life. We have to understand it in that way. So not respecting oneself, let's say sometimes in the scriptures it is explained in this way, like a person, he may think that, oh, I am such a person educated with this family background, and I should not be doing this kind of unwholesome things or harming others or something like that. No, so this is respect for oneself and respect of others, thinking that this other person, they also, let's say stealing something or harming someone, they also have they work very hard to get their own thing. So it is not right for one to disrespect what they do and then to take away what belongs to him or something like that. No, so in this case, we have to understand in normal day-to-day terms, not in ultimate reality. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, Eddie.
When someone has a trauma and they, I don't know, act out because they were abused as a child or something, and they turn out to be or become a morally shameless or even fearless, like it's a self-destructing behavior. So I know it's still unwholesome, but is that somewhat like forgivable, or I don't know, like is there a leeway for that?
Is it, sorry, I didn't understand the last part. Is it what?
A leeway for because I mean they are usually, like, I hear people using this as an excuse. Oh, they suffered the trauma and then
yes,
that's why they behave this way.
I personally think that it really depends on the person itself. So we, of course, many people will have many different reasons or different background or different history or things that people have gone through. But that we may say that, let's say, in which kind of family that this person is born to, maybe that's related to his karma. But then what he does is now actually what it does not only depends on karma. Otherwise, if that's a reason for someone to do unwholesome thing, then anyone in that situation will do unwholesome thing, but that's not the case. For example, if two brothers born in the same family, let's say the father is drunk, always drunk, alcoholic, and then he comes home and then he throw away things and then he hit everyone, whatever. So two kids grow up in that way. Maybe one brother decided that I will never do the same as my father did, so he don't touch any alcohol, and the other brother, maybe he just did the same as his father. So if the situation is a reason for the person to act in a certain way, then the two brothers must act the same. But so it really does not depend on the situation, but depends on the wisdom and depends on the person himself also, like how much he wants to improve himself, or I mean, there are so many different conditions to consider. But at the end, also yoniso manasikara, the right wise attention of paying attention to the situation and how one should act or react to it. So, and as you said, in terms of ultimate reality, unwholesome is always unwholesome, whatever reason one may have. That will not say that because he was beaten, therefore if he beats someone, then his unwholesomeness is less, then he will have a better result. So I don't think it works that way. But that is, of course, it is unfortunate, but it also depends on the person that he needs to do with the wrong situation to do the right thing. No, that's why in many suttas also the Buddha have described a different kind of person, 4 types of person. Maybe you have heard about this sutta. The person who is going from light to light. That means a person, I will say the 4 types first, and then I'll explain a little bit. The person who is going from light to light, a person going from light to darkness, a person going from darkness to light, and a person going from darkness to darkness. So the first one, a person going to light from light, meaning he has very good conditions. He was born in a good family and everything is good. And then he make use of this good opportunity and good conditions. And then he improved himself and become better. So that's a person going from light to light. And a person going from light to darkness, that is, he was born in a very good family, good situation, good education, but then he decided that he will do drugs, so then he will do something unwholesome or whatever. And then so he's going from light to darkness. So he was born with light, with goodness, but then he is going to the opposite way. So from then the third type, from darkness to light. So no matter the person he was born in a very bad situation, just like the situation that you just mentioned, but then he decided to improve himself, and then he's going towards the light. He's coming out from the darkness. Then the other person, darkness to darkness. So needless to say, so he was born in a bad situation, conditions are bad, and then he continued doing unwholesome things. So he's going to from darkness to darkness. Okay, so yes. Hopefully we are going from light to light, no? From brightness to brightness, no? From light to light. Okay. All right. Anyway, so let's continue with the next cetasika. Okay, so Uddhacca, restlessness. Let's see. Now, this restlessness accompanies all kind of cetasikas. So is not letting the mind calm and peaceful, no? So it is described as the disquietude or the distraction or the even turmoil of the mind. So there is no mental calmness enabling the mind to consider the object clearly. So this is restlessness. So with all kinds of akusala, whenever one do something unwholesome, there is always this agitation. Also, there is no calmness when one do unwholesome thing. Let's take a look at its characteristic. Its characteristic is disquietude. So just like water whipped up by the wind, when there is wind and the water cannot be still, so a lot of ripples and ripples like that. And its function is to make the mind unsteady, just like a flag fluttered in the wind. So its function is to make the mind like that. And its manifestation is turmoil. The example being given by the teachers is like how it's compared to ashes which rise up when a rock is thrown to them. So the mind is like this, like Uddhacca, restless, like this ashes. Okay. All right. So its proximate cause is the unwise attention to mental disquiet. So literally, so it means that not understanding the nature of mental disquiet, meaning that the person doesn't care about whether the mind is quiet or is not quiet. It's because it is restless, no? So this is the proximate cause. If the person doesn't care whether he's calm or not, then it's more easy for him to be restless. So literally, the meaning of this word Uddhacca is shaking, shake above the object. So that means the mind cannot take the object properly. So it's also described as distraction sometimes, being the mind not being firmly on the object. So these are the 4 universal cetasikas for akusala. So Moha, delusion, Ahirika, moral shamelessness, Anottappa, moral fearlessness, and Uddhacca, restlessness. Okay, so up till here, we have already finished the mental factors that are universal, unwholesome mental factors, and we are going to the occasionals. Okay, so yeah, why don't we take a break here now for 5 minutes? Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we have just finished with the universal unwholesome cetasikas. Now let's go to the occasionals, and the first group of them is the Lobha group. Now in the Lobha group, we have 3 cetasikas, which is Lobha, greed and attachment itself. Then we have Diṭṭhi, wrong view, and then we have Māna, pride and arrogance. So let's look at them one by one. Lobha, greed. Now, what is greed? What is what we call Lobha? In the Dhammasangani, the first book of the Abhidhamma basket, Abhidhamma book, we find all this definition, all this description of what is meant by Lobha. So attachment to life, obstacle, self-indulgence, longing for, also a lot of different, and continues, and it continues. So all these descriptions you can find in the Dhammasangani 1059 if you are interested. And then later you can take a look. Now remember that what we call Lobha in this Pali word, its range is really big. So from the very, very subtle, just a wanting, just a preference, a little liking, unto the very gross form of attachment, lust, and obsession, to until this range, all of them are called Lobha. So there are very many different degrees of Lobha, but all of them are included. Okay, so now let's see the 4 devices of Lobha, of greed. Its characteristic is the grasping of an object. And then its function is sticking. So sticking to the object. So the example being given in the scripture is like a piece of meat stuck on a very, very hot fry pan. So imagine with a hot fry pan and make it sticking there. So that's how a Lobha is like, its function. The manifestation is the not giving up, and its proximate cause is seeing enjoyment in things that lead to bondage. Let's read this again. Seeing enjoyment in things that lead to bondage. Doesn't that sound a little bit familiar?
Very familiar.
Okay, so, right. Okay, I think we all have experience, right? Okay, now, just a little story, which is real, and to show like how we see enjoyment in things that lead to bondage. So it is said that in Indonesia, there is a kind of little monkey, a cute little monkey, that they like sweets a lot. So the local hunters, what they do is that they bring coconuts, and then they put sweets inside. They make a little tiny hole, and then they put coconuts inside. They put sweets inside the coconut and leave it there. And that's it, and that's good enough. And what does the monkey do? So they leave the coconut there, and then the monkey will come and examine the coconut, and then they found that there are sweets inside. So the hole is just good enough for the monkey to put their hand inside. And then then they grab all the candies and the sweets inside, right? Then now the hunter comes. Now what happens next? They actually don't need to do anything. They just put the coconut there, and then they put sweets inside. So what actually kills the monkey?
They don't want to release the sweets.
Exactly. So what he actually needs to do is that it's because the little hole is good enough for him to put the hand in. But then when he grabs all the sweets, then it's big, and then it cannot come out anymore. But what it needs to do, it's just to let go. and then the can come and then they are free to go. But they just don't do that. And that's what leads to the suffering, right? So for many animals as well, fishes, rabbits, and all kinds of animals, including human. So we can actually all contemplate on what is the piece of cheese for us, what keep us running after, and samsara just roll on and on and on, right? Because of tanha and lobha, right? Okay, so this is the attachment which keeps us here. All right, that's lobha, and now let's go to Diṭṭhi, wrong view. Now, what is wrong view? Wrong view here is the non-understanding or seeing things seeing impermanent things as permanent. No, that's one kind of wrong view. Or seeing those that are unsatisfactory as satisfactory. Or seeing what is not beautiful as beautiful. And not seeing what is actually what we are, no? Like taking nama and rupa, only mind and matter, as the combination, as I, as me, as mine, no? So that's also wrong view. And then there are also the other wrong views that we have introduced previously, that there is no cause or conditions for defilements and purifications of beings, like whatever we do, beings are defiled by chance or by faith. So there is no cause and no effect, no. Or there are other ideas of the one by chance, then so there may be cause, but there is no effect, or that there is death is the total destruction of everything, and after death there is nothing anymore. So better enjoy life while you can and do whatever you want. So all these kinds of wrong ideas are also included in the wrong view. So here the view does not mean like political view or a situation of philosophy or all those things, but it means like view on reality. We do not understand reality as it is. So these are the types of wrong view, no, like about cause and effect. Okay, so let's take a look at the 4 devices of wrong view. The characteristic of wrong view is the unwise interpretation of things. So we understand things in a wrong way. We look at it in a wrong way. And its function is to take things wrongly. And its manifestation is the wrong interpretation or wrong belief. And its proximate cause is unwillingness to see the noble ones and to associate with them. This is an interesting approximate cause, no? Like when there is some noble beings like the Buddha or the teachers, like showing the way, and some not willing to listen or not willing to associate or see them, during the time of the Buddha or right now in this era, so not willing to listen or to not interested into seeing what reality really is, are the proximate cause of wrong view. Okay, so this is the second unwholesome occasional cetasika in the Lobha group. Yes, Edith?
So basically just having moha but not having like a strong opinion or wrong view is better, right? Like it sounds like if you have a wrong view, it's already so much worse than just having moha, which is ignorance, like not knowing.
In a way, you may say so in a way, because knowing something wrongly maybe is worse than knowing or not knowing, no, maybe. But remember, Diṭṭhi also is always associated with moha, because moha is a universal unwholesome cetasika, no? So whenever there is Diṭṭhi, there is always moha there, no? So moha is big. So because of Moha also, then we understand things wrongly also, no? And then the worst part, we attach to our wrong idea and we think this is right. And then we get attached to that, no? So yes, actually, purely Moha, maybe with Lobha group, with Diṭṭhi is worse, because with Diṭṭhi, as we previously said, that with those idea of understanding, thinking that there is no cause and effect, and all these dangerous ideas make us do more Akusala. So like also there are even wrong views that can lead us to the woeful state, like those very wrong ideas, right? So Diṭṭhi is, if you compare it purely with Moha, or Diṭṭhi together with Moha, then of course Diṭṭhi is even more dangerous, right? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go to the last cetasika. So Māna, pride and arrogance. This is also one that is very dangerous. Pride and arrogance and vainglory. It is actually it is said that it should be considered as temporary madness. It is written in the text like that. So let's see the 4 devices of Māna: pride, arrogance, or vainglory. The characteristic of Māna is haughtiness, and its function is exaltation, and then we have its manifestation as vainglory, and its proximate cause is greed dissociated from wrong view. Now this is interesting because Lobha, remember the Lobha Mula Chittas, the greed-rooted consciousness. So there is Diṭṭhi Gata Sampayutta and Diṭṭhi Gata Vipayutta, no? So when it is together with wrong view, then the object is the idea, right? So it is attaching to the wrong idea. So when there is Māna, Māna and Diṭṭhi, they cannot arise at the same time. So when there is Māna that is associated in this Lobha group, then the object itself is the comparison of oneself and the others, no? Or I am better, or sometimes I'm worse, or, like this comparison with others. So the object is different. It's not attaching to an idea, but it's comparing oneself to the other. So at that time, it does not associate with Diṭṭhi. So Māna, cetasika, only arise in those cetasika, in those Lobha Mula Citta without Diṭṭhi. Okay. All right. So that's why here it says that dissociated from wrong view. It's a different object. Okay. So Māna is what is it is described as like wanting to advertise oneself, everything about me. Yes, Austin.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat it? What do you mean by it doesn't arise with wrong view?
Right. So you remember in the Lobha Mula Citta, in the greed-rooted consciousness, we have 4 that are associated with wrong view, and then we have 4 that are not associated with wrong view, right? So Māna, this cetasika, does not arise together with the cetasika Diṭṭhi, wrong view. So the 2 of them is not compatible. They do not arise together. So when there is Diṭṭhi, there is no Māna. When there is Māna, there is no Diṭṭhi in that Lobha Mula Citta. Because when there is Diṭṭhi, when there is wrong view, the person is attaching to a wrong idea, no? Thinking of impermanence as permanent, or thinking of something not beautiful as beautiful, or not understanding reality as it really is, right? So that is then those kind of idea that one is attached to. Now, when there is Māna, when there is arrogance, what's happening in the mind is comparing oneself with another person. He was thinking, I'm better than him, I'm richer than him, I'm more educated, or the other way around, no? Or I'm worse than him, I'm never as good, or like this comparison is comparing oneself with the other. So that it has nothing to do with Diṭṭhi here. It has nothing to do with a wrong idea here. Although based on a wrong idea of self, then when one may think that, I am better and this and that, no? But then remember, we are talking about the units of consciousness, microscopic, no? So maybe in some other process, based on this wrong idea of thinking about wrong view about self, then in those cittas that arise in those processes, that they might be associated with Diṭṭhi. But at the moment when he is comparing oneself with the other, the actual moment, the actual Lobha Mula Citta, there is no Diṭṭhi there because there is Māna. Do you understand?
Right. So, yeah. So if that is not considered wrong view in this. I mean, in this sense, like comparing oneself to another is also a sort of wrong view, but not in this sense wrong view.
No, not in this sense. It is. Okay. It could be based on wrong view, but those are those other cittas that arise in another process. That while actually the person is thinking, I am so much better than the other person, in that moment, that Lobha Mula Citta that is associated with pride and arrogance, he's not thinking about the view. He's thinking about the comparison of himself and others. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome. So they do not arise together in the same citta, Diṭṭhi and Māna. So either there is Māna or either there's Diṭṭhi. Yes. Yeah. Is there another question there? Yes, please. Who? Yes.
Maybe you already answered the question, but isn't Māna a particular kind of Diṭṭhi? I mean, you touched upon that a bit, but isn't the self-view, that positioning, comparing with others, also a particular kind of wrong view or wrong view?
Right. So it could be the comparison can be based on a wrong view, but microscopically, they are two things. One thing is having the wrong view of self, which is actually called the Sakkaya Diṭṭhi, of like thinking Nama and Rupa as self, as I, and as me, as mine. So this is a wrong view. So that is Diṭṭhi. That is associated with Diṭṭhi. But at the moment of the comparison, the pride and the arrogance, and that comparison, that is actually the cetasika Māna. So they are different. So Māna is not Diṭṭhi, ultimately.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so Māna, arrogance, there can be many different kinds of arrogance. So what is mentioned in the text, we can find something that is called jati Māna. Then people might be proud of what? Proud of family, proud of where they come from. So this pride about one's family, or one can be proud of conceit for possessing wealth, or being rich. That's called dana Māna. And people can also be proud of one's education and knowledge. That's called panya Māna. And then people can also be proud of one's physical beauty. So that's called abhirupa Māna. So there are different kinds of pride, family, education, physical beauty, and wealth. And in the book of the analysis, the Vibhanga, the second book of the Abhidhamma, you can find all these different kinds of pride. So pride of birth, clan, health, youth, life, gained, being honored, being respected, prominence, having followers, wealth, appearance, erudition, intelligence, being a knowledgeable authority, being a regular alms collector, being not despised, but the posture or the bearing of the person, the accomplishment, the popularity, being moral, even jhana, even we can be proud of having jhana, being skillful, or being tall, or the bodily proportion and the form and the body perfection, and so on and so on and so on. So all these things, anything actually, what not, right? What not can one be proud of? So this mana, it's also a very subtle defilement that is to be eradicated only actually in the arhat, in the stage of arhatship, no, like with the arhata magga. Yes, Edith.
It is not mentioned here, but I'm curious if a Sotapanna could be proud of being a Sotapanna.
I don't know if he can be proud of being a Sotapanna, but he surely can be proud, because mana is only eradicated at the last stage of enlightenment. No, so only with Magga, mana can be eradicated. So even an anagami, imagine.
Ooh.
That's until the very end. This stays until the very end with us, unfortunately. But anyway, okay. So that's about mana, right? So, well, how does it manifest? Sometimes we can see like when a person is proud, so it's we can show that's like disdain also, or a stubbornness, like when one is proud, don't listen to anyone else, or it can be manifest as like vanity, or like an haughtiness or an ego. So mana can be expressed in all these different kinds of way, and its antidote is actually wisdom and metta. So now sometimes we believe that only our anger or aversion are unpleasant to other people, but actually conceit or arrogance, it's also being actually lack of kindness or consideration for other people. No, so when there is loving kindness and when there is wisdom, then there is no opportunity for conceit to arise. So by practicing panya and metta, then the mana can be reduced. All right. Okay, so up till here, we have finished with the Lobha group, Lobha, Diṭṭhi, and Māna. So that's one of the occasional group. And then we still have dosa and the other group. But I think we should stop here. Otherwise, we will get indigestion of cetasikas. So let's keep it until here, and then we will continue with the dosa and the other akusala cetasikas next week. So if you have any questions, then we can discuss. Then otherwise, we can stop a little bit earlier.
Yes, I have a question, but it's not actually really related with the subject we talked today. It's about the 6 senses, but the 5 of them, apart from the mind, are the input for us. So the input through which we interact with the exterior. Is the mind also be considered an input? Or is it like an internal loop or something like this?
I think it can also be an input. For example, imagination can be things that we haven't seen or we haven't heard, but we can imagine something. So in a way, that's also a kind of input, no, to the mind. What do you think?
I think that if I define the input like whatever comes from outside,
external,
then yeah, because I can cut my interaction for a moment with the exterior.
Yeah.
But I still, for instance, I close my eyes, but I I can still see images with my imagination, but they are not generated by the input. They are generated by the mind. And from that perspective, I was asking if there are things that relate to the mind that are generated from the exterior, but not based on the other five senses.
Well, in that case, if you are talking about like, if according to how I understand your explanation, things that it's coming from external input, let's say eye, ear, or nose, like in terms of the senses, then definitely the mind is a little bit different in that sense. So, but input, in a way, there are scriptures that says that if a deva or if a deity want to tell you something, he can give you a dream. So if you consider that an input, then it might be some kind of input, not generated from inside of you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So when you were talking about Vitakka and Vicāra, I was just thinking, and I know that they are always together, but I don't understand why Vitakka still stays when Vicāra is already on the object and holding it, basically, and why the initial application still necessary.
Now, first thing is that Vitakka and Vicāra are not always together. Remember, in the second jhana, Vitakka is dropped.
Yes.
So
yes, exactly. That's what I'm thinking also.
Yes, not necessarily all the time together. So it depends on whether it is necessary or not. So most of the time, Vitakka and Vicāra, it arises in normal cittas, let's say day-to-day cittas. So now you say that when it is already holding it, why is it still necessary? But then remember, like all the cetasikas, they arise together at the same time, they stay together at the same time, and they passed away at the same time. So it's not like Vitakka arise first, then Vitakka already take it, then Vicāra holds it, and then give it to another. No, but they do it together. No, just like the potter, one is holding the pot, the clay, and the other hand is molding it. No, so they actually do a different function. But then if you don't hold it and then you just mold it, then it might collapse or just imagine the clay in the ceramic making process. No, or there is another example like holding a plate and then rubbing it, cleaning it. No, so if you hold it in order to clean it, Vitakka holds it, Vicāra cleans it. So if you don't hold it, you can't actually clean it. So that's the example being given in the text. So they do a different function, and they are in that sense where in that case where they are together, it's because they do different thing that is necessary. Both of them are necessary.
But in the jhana, one drops.
Yes, in the jhana, Vitakka drops. Yes. Then sometimes when a person is quick-minded, sometimes later when we studied in chapter 4, there are different mental processes. Even in the jhana process or in the magga process, there are some people that are very quick-minded. Then sometimes one or two cittas is not necessary to arise there immediately. Other types of cittas is hard to explain it now because we are not in that chapter yet. But in that time, then we will see. So sometimes when a person depends on his own ability, if he's very quick, then some cittas is not necessary. Then it does not arise. But for a person that is a little bit slower, then more cittas arise in order to do the same job. So in chapter 4, we will see different types of mental processes for different types of persons as well.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so if you have no questions, I have a question. So how is everybody going up till now? Then we have finished already chapter 1, and then we are now going to the cetasikas, and then so we have today finished 11 sessions already. So I like to listen to a little bit of your feedback to see like what do you think and how can we improve, or how is the speed going, and is the explanation clear and anything. So please. Yes, Austin.
I would just like to say that this is such a in-depth topic and subject matter, and there's so much of content, and you have built this content so very well and explaining it so beautifully. It's quite unbelievable that you've put this, all of this together I mean, it's very complicated, and the way that you put all this content together and then even teaching it and presenting it, it is so well done. I think it's quite unbelievable how this whole thing has been put together. It's much gratitude to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This makes me very happy, thinking that this is helpful. And then it is the main idea is to present this material, which is such valuable material, in an easily digestible way. So if it is a little bit helpful in this way, then it will be very worthy of all the hours that we have put onto making the material. So thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Yes, Delawa.
The similes you use in your presentations are very comprehensible. Like these words sometimes are so abstract to get, but then you explain it in a way that just makes a lot of sense, because you can compare it to your everyday life. And that makes it so much easier to understand. And I think that's a really hard challenge to get to that point, to explain it in such a way. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And I also want to tell everyone this is actually not all my explanation. I am using, the explanation is really very much based on Sayadaw Usilananda's explanation. Most of the time I read his book and then I used his explanation, and then I make them graphic and I present his teaching actually. So it's Sayadaw Usilananda's explanation most of the time. Yeah, but yes, Sayadaw-ji, he has this ability of bringing the complex idea into very simple explanations, which is very helpful for us Abhidhamma students, right? So thank you very much. I'm glad it's helpful.
Yes, yes, but even Bhante Usilananda has learned from someone, and they learn from someone, and they learn from someone, and ultimately it leads back to the Buddha, I think.
Right, exactly.
So it's very important that we all learn from someone, but we are learning from you. So thank you so much, Chandana, for sharing your time and energy and everything.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, because without you, I won't be doing this. So thank you very much. Yes, yes, Chanda.
Yeah, similarly with what Edith said, I think it's nice that the words in Pali are kept and explained, because that's a link that links us to the word of the Buddha, actually, and I'm appreciative of that as well. And from my opinion, it's my first iteration coming in interaction with these concepts, and this for me it's a lot of information, but I'm also grateful that we have material to come back to. I mean, for me the learning takes place in many iterations. So yeah, thank you for everything, and I agree with what was said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, so the Abhidhamma, as all of you also expressed, that it is a complex subject. I don't think it is complicated, actually. It is complex, but it is understandable. And of course, I'm also a student, and there is so much to learn. The Abhidhamma Sangaha is just really an introduction. So so there is always, when we come back and look at it, there's always deeper and deeper things that we can always explore. No, so the Buddha's wisdom is really wonderful, and we are very fortunate to have great teachers still alive that can explain this difficult complex ideas or reality to us in simpler words. No, and to make our life better. Actually, the whole Abhidhamma study is for practice, is for making our life better, more kusala, more wholesome deeds, and so with more wholesome karma, then more wholesome, resultant also. No, so for creating the conditions for final liberation. Also, that's the main purpose of the Buddha, and I'm really, really very glad that we are all studying this together. Yes, Edith.
I just wanted to give you a feedback. I think I was most waiting for this chapter actually with the cetasikas, because they were somewhat fuzzy in my mind, and I really, really appreciate and like, but I still have to go back and learn, like Chanda, that graphic with the circles, like the universals and around the occasionals and so on. Like, it's so helpful. Like, it's in my mind already. And I also wanted to ask a question. When you were talking about Moha as a cetasika, like, can it be also counteracted, or can Moha be dispelled by learning?
Yes, of course, to a certain degree.
Okay, so it's not just meditation or anything. It's also this learning of the Abhidhamma and the Dharma.
Yes, of course. But of course it is to a certain degree, of course, because it is necessary that we put what we learn into practice. No, do you remember there are three kinds of panya, right? Suttamaya panya. The first one is the three kinds of wisdom, the ones that we hear, we learned, and then Chintamaya panya, the one that we after we listen something, after we learn something, then we try to process it inside us, and then we yes, this makes sense, and then this is like this, and this is like that. Chintamaya panya, and well, precisely, actually, Chintamaya panya belongs to the Buddha, but let's take it this way first. Let's not go into so much detail at the moment. And then the third one is Bhavanamaya panya. Bhavanamaya panya is the wisdom generated from the practice. So first we learned it. We analyze it, we think that, yes, this logical, it's this way, then that's two kinds of different wisdom. And the third one must come from our experience, and that's the one that liberates us. And so only learning is not good enough, but without learning, then it's difficult for the practice, because we don't have the basic information that supports the practice. So all of these three are important. And of course, any kind of wisdom is the opposite of delusion. So the more wisdom we have, the less delusion, no?
Yes. I absolutely think that Abhidhamma did put a huge input into my practice as well. And it's so much easier to get where I want to get in the practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For me too. Yes, I cannot imagine my life without Abhidhamma anymore. I mean, without the information. Yes. Okay. So, anyone else want to share something?
I thought I saw Delaware putting up a hand.
Yes, please.
My question was solved while you explained it, Janapali.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anyone else? No one else? All right. Okay. So in this case, then we will finish here today. And I really, really thank you everyone for your effort. and for your dedication, because really Abhidhamma, it's a long study and it takes a lot of patience, and not everyone have this kind of the dedication and how be persistent in the study. And so I really appreciate everyone that is whether we are studying together, because this information is really, really valuable. So the only way to keep it alive is to learn it. So after we learned it, then my teacher told me, if you want to learn more, then teach it. So actually, thanks to you all, then I am learning, because while I'm preparing the sessions, then questions come up, then I think about things that I haven't thought about, then I ask my teacher, and then we discuss. And so this is another learning. So I also encourage every one of you to keep the Abhidhamma alive, where we must learn it and then share it. So in whatever way, like for edit also, it's a lot of work making the notes and everything. I used to help my meditation teacher to edit his books and to do transcripts and things. And then he always tells me that it's a lot of work, but the one who gets the most benefit is the one who does the work, right? So while we are doing it, we are actually revising and we are doing. So thank you for the opportunity. And if you want to get better, then so later on, you can also share with whoever interested, to keep this alive. All right. So let's let's share our merits and also dedicate this merit for our liberation. Let's recite together. Itam no punyam magafalanyana sa pacheyo hotu. Itam no punyam magafalanyana sa pacheyo hotu. Itam no punyam magafalanyana sa pacheyo hotu. Itam no punyam sabasatanam bhajima. Itam no punyam sabasatanam bhajima. Itam no punyam sabasatanam bhajima. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you next Saturday.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.